you have to admit it was done to provoke exactly
100%.
this response. So you can't really blame people for being like, okay, dude.
Yes,
and it's
but
very,
the response, they
the trailer
protest too much.
Was extremely homoerotic. We have to acknowledge that as well.
Yeah, but it's not gay to carry your testosterone.
Sure, but no one's saying that. But here's the thing. A couple pieces. Sure. Number one, if this is, and I acknowledge like the science around testosterone declining levels is really true, but why is the population fat, addicted to alcohol, miserable, diabetes, getting bad sleep?
Yeah.
These things have a lot less to do with individual choices of whether or not to tan your balls, and a lot more to do with the fact that we have a failing, corrupt system. Absolutely. With a, like a healthcare system that's last in the developed world. Let's just start there. And so this is the part that really irritates me, is if you want to be serious about this conversation, this isn't like a bootstrap your way and get your red light panel installed and have your bromeopathy or whatever. Why aren't you talking about that our healthcare system is broken and people deserve care and they deserve mental health care and they deserve some values outside of consumerism and like goop for men.
I completely agree.
So that's a part that irritates me. It also, the framing also, I mean, it does play into this very like sort of traditional like men make the society, and he says strong men made good times. I mean, I find all of that a little bit ridiculous, and so clearly he is leaning into a culture war here with all of this. But the part that really bothers me is that if you actually care about these things, the society-wide problem is a lot more important to talk about than like, you know, the individual personal choices that people are making when they're doing their best to survive in society. So that's the part that irritates me.
I agree with you. And by the way, I haven't watched the whole documentary. I don't even think it's out yet. So this is
just
obviously
the trailer.
Was put out. So I would hope that they do focus on that. And there's also a reason that I left the supplement or whatever all the way at the last. Because by the way, that stuff is not going to do anything for you. If you still are drinking a lot, if you're not sleeping badly, all of that, that's the part which is going to be affected. Now, in terms of individual choice on that, it's on a variance, right? Which is you can choose in order to opt out, but it makes it very difficult. And societies and incentives are moved towards one direction, which is to be fat and to not exercise currently.
Right.
That's the macro problem. I mean, there's absolutely no, and I would actually say within the fitness community, most people are very willing in order to admit that. So I think actually there is a bipartisan, or not, let's take it out of the partisan. There is a cross-cultural ability in order for people to arrive at the fact that if you even talk to vegans and the most carnivore people, they will actually have the same critique of the entire food supply chain. They will just disagree on whether to eat animals or not. Right. The most hardcore carnivore people are always talking about grass-fed and about keeping hormones out of your meat. Vegans are talking about the same thing. So my point is that we should try to focus on that broader societal problem. And that's why I agree with you. Yeah. And also why I focused on obesity and I think all that too.
That's a part too that like clearly he leaned into this being a culture war issue.
Yes. But that doesn't mean you should take the bait, right?
Right, you don't have to take the bait, but like, I'm not gonna let him off the hook for the fact that he clearly leaned into, let's make this into a right-wing culture war issue. And I have never heard him talk about something like, you know, positively like single-payer healthcare that would do far more for testosterone crisis, obesity, and mental health issues, addiction, all of that, than, you know, tanning your balls for, as one example.
I agree. By the way, even on that, the science is only in mouses, so I should be clear there in terms of what the actual proven effects are. So your mileage may vary. The important part is, to me, is I felt, and what I saw, was a backlash against the discussion itself. And that, I think, is incredibly dangerous. And a lot of it are these hyper-liberal women, frankly, who are like, this is ridiculous. Like, men will literally care more about the testosterone than go to therapy. It's like, first of all, they're not mutually exclusive. And actually, one is very linked to depression. And in general, from what I've seen in my own personal experience, you talk about this, people mock you. They think you're crazy. You think you sound like a crazy person. I mean, this is one of the most vital things to all of health. So I'm looking at it much more of, I think we should protect the lane in order to discuss it. I would not have done what Tucker did in terms of, you you could look at my presentation. I think you could probably send that to a liberal person, and they would take away from it. And that is why we choose to do the show that we do for its efficacy.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean, I mean, look, if a liberal person talked about it in a, I don't know, in some culture warrior show, I think I would still defend it. I would say, look, these people are making a good point. Not the way that I would have chosen to do it, but the backlash on it is also bad.
Yeah, I just think he really misses the point in terms of what would actually matter, and makes it into a culture war issue, makes it into a lightning rod, makes it so that we're talking about individual, which, look, I mean, I strongly encourage everybody to do what they can to preserve their own health, and everybody has agency to do those things. But when you're a primetime host with a massive audience, you have a lot of power to actually try to push policy, especially to an audience that, maybe hasn't heard those arguments before. That could make a difference. Do I think that Tucker Carlson is ever going to do that? No, I do not.
No, he's not, but at least I can.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.